Minnesota. When big boys ain't know us. All fast money, never slow us.
What is going on, you guys? Brandon here, aka Browadis, and today I'm bringing you guys yet another video for my NBA channel. First and foremost, I have my basketball game in about 4 hours, so I'm excited for that. My team is 1-2, so we're gonna try to go 500 at 2-2. But anyways, I wasn't expecting to make a video on this topic. This kind of came out of nowhere, so I'm gonna just jump right into it. If you guys have heard, or if you haven't heard, I'm gonna explain it to you right now. Lamarcus Aldridge has had his name pop up in NBA trade rumors for the past, I'd say, day or two. This is a news story. It's just coming up now. We might as well go over it because these are some credible sources that are citing this. So first of all, let me just tell you that every single year there's some unusual names that come up on the trade block. For example, last year was Jimmy Butler, where everyone is like, why would the Bulls trade Jimmy Butler? And what happened? Yes, his name was thrown in there in a lot of rumors, but he ended up obviously not being traded. This might be another case of that because a lot of people are already tweeting and saying, why in the world would the San Antonio Spurs trade Lamarcus Aldridge? Okay, I'm going to give you guys why it makes sense to trade Lamarcus Aldridge, why it makes sense to keep Lamarcus Aldridge, and then I'm going to give you guys my opinion, my thoughts. So first of all, let's just start with my thoughts because again, this is the Browadis NBA show, so I'm going to give you my thoughts. In my opinion, I don't think a trade involving Lamarcus Aldridge is going to happen. And when I first heard his name pop up, even in light rumors, I was like, why? That makes no sense. The San Antonio Spurs just signed Lamarcus Aldridge last year. Okay, he didn't lead them, but he was playing second fiddle with Kawhi Leonard, and they took that team to the second round of the playoffs. Although that wasn't too impressive because they got knocked out without even reaching the Western Conference Finals, they had an excellent regular season. Okay, Tim Duncan retired. When they signed Lamarcus Aldridge, he was supposed to be, obviously you can't take over everything Tim Duncan does, but he was supposed to be the successor, the closest thing to replacing Tim Duncan. So, and he didn't play bad. Lamarcus Aldridge had a fine year. Obviously, he got less touches than he got in Portland for various reasons. He was playing on a much better team with much better talent. Nonetheless, in my opinion, I don't think Lamarcus Aldridge will be traded. To me, it's kind of like, it just doesn't really make sense to sign somebody to a max contract, and they tried so hard to get him in the summer, and he wasn't a fail. It's not like the Dwight Howard to the LA Lakers a couple years back where that was just a complete fail and they got rid of him or he chose to leave. This is a completely different story. Although they didn't win a championship, they didn't make it to the championship, this experiment has not failed yet. So I don't see why they would give up on it yet. But those are just my opinions. So San Antonio Spurs fans and all the fans of other different teams around the league that are watching this video and wonder, oh wow, because I've been getting tweets, what do you think of the Lamarcus Aldridge rumors? How does this make sense? Let me tell you guys, for me, I don't believe it yet. I don't think it's going to happen because the experiment has not failed. That's my opinion. Once an experiment or a free agent signing fails, that's usually when the team moves on. So that's my opinion, but there are sides of it that make sense. So I'm going to give you guys that side. So here's where Lamarcus Aldridge trade would make sense. A Lamarcus Aldridge trade. Okay, if the San Antonio Spurs feel as if the Golden State Warriors have put together a team, because the Warriors, what people forget, are still extremely young. Kevin Durant nor Steph Curry, neither of them are 30 years old. Draymond Green has only played a few years in this league. Klay Thompson was drafted in 2011. This is only going to be his 5th or 6th season. They are all young. Their core is young. So, one reason it would make sense to trade Lamarcus Aldridge would be if, you know, the Golden State Warriors come out firing this season and they just look unbeatable. They look unstoppable. And if that's the case and the San Antonio Spurs feel like, you know what, hey, the Warriors are going to be dominating for the next couple of years. Lamarcus Aldridge is 31 years old. You know, by the time the Warriors kind of fall back, Lamarcus is going to be, you know, let's just say 35, 36. If they feel that way, if the Warriors come out and dominate like they showed us in that one preseason game against the Clippers, and the Spurs kind of look at it as, hey, you know what? Lamarcus is 31. He's a win-now type of player. When we brought in Lamarcus Aldridge and obviously signed Pau Gasol, we were looking to win now, not win in 4 or 5 years. That's what we have Kawhi Leonard for. So, in my opinion, if and only if they feel as if the Golden State Warriors are just unbeatable. Not like Cleveland. Cleveland is a very good team in the East. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, the NBA champions, and they have the best player in the world, LeBron James. Don't get me wrong. They're a really good team. But teams like Boston, Toronto, Indiana, they feel like they could take down Cleveland. I don't agree with that. I think Cleveland's going back to the finals. But there's at least the feeling where, you know what, Boston got Al Horford, let's try to take down Cleveland. In the West, teams kind of seem, they seem more, oh my God, how are we going to beat the Warriors, like this. So that is one reason Lamarcus Aldridge would be traded. In case the San Antonio Spurs feel like they're not going to be able to compete for a couple years because the Warriors are just going to run away with the West every year, they might want to flip a 31-year-old into some younger pieces. Another reason would be Tim Duncan retired. Manu Ginobili, this is his last season. He's about to be 40 years old. He's going to retire after this year. Tony Parker, he's not getting any younger. He has, I don't want to put a number on it, but he doesn't have too many years left. So the San Antonio Spurs could be looking at, our core is gone. Even Gasol. I think Gasol's 36 years old because they just brought in Pau Gasol. So you figure Duncan gone, Ginobili gone after this year. Tony Parker's on his last wheels. Pau Gasol's on his last wheels. Does a Kawhi Leonard and Lamarcus Aldridge pairing really make that much sense? Kawhi Leonard just turned 25 this summer, and Lamarcus Aldridge is 31. So they're 6 years apart. And I understand, like, Dwayne Wade's 34. Steve Nash played till he was almost 40, actually. So, yes, I'm not saying Lamarcus is old. Not at all. And, yes, Lamarcus has a ton of good years ahead of him. He's in his prime. And I'm sure a lot of teams would love to have him. But you got to think, because Kawhi Leonard and Lamarcus are supposed to lead this team to their next era, the post-Tim Duncan era. Does that timeline really fit? Does a 31-year-old kind of grow with a 25-year-old? I don't know. So, another reason for them to trade him would be like, for them to say, you know what, Tim Duncan's gone, Ginobili's gone, Tony Parker's about to be gone. Why don't we give the keys fully to Kawhi Leonard, trade Lamarcus Aldridge for a younger piece, someone in that 24 to 27, 26 years old range, and then have Kawhi Leonard and then insert blank for who Lamarcus Aldridge would be traded for to lead the team into the next era. So, again, this correlates to if the San Antonio Spurs come out in their first place in the West and they beat the Warriors 2 or 3 times a season and they look like they're going to the finals, then none of this matters because Lamarcus Aldridge will not be traded. All of this correlates to how the Warriors are going to be dealt with in the West. If the San Antonio Spurs deal with the Golden State Warriors just fine and they look like they could take them down, just like they looked like last season, which obviously they didn't get the chance to do in the playoffs, but in the regular season the Spurs looked like the Warriors' biggest challengers, then Lamarcus Aldridge is not going anywhere. And in my opinion, even if they do come out, even if the Warriors do come out and go, I don't know, let's just say they start 30 wins and 5 losses. They start 30-5. I still don't think the San Antonio Spurs trade him. What I was telling you guys was just why it would make sense if you had to look at it in a certain point of view. That's why it would make sense. And again, I already told you guys my opinion, but let me just go over really quickly why it wouldn't make sense. 31 years old, if you're younger, you could look at it and be like, wow, 31, that's so old. 31 for a player like Lamarcus Aldridge is not that old. He does not rely on his athleticism. He does not jump through the roof and put back dunks and, block shots out the building. No, he relies on skill and his post game. He could shoot the jumper. He doesn't have a Blake Griffin or Russell Westbrook type of game. Don't get me wrong. They're excellent players. They're really, really, really good players. One of them is MVP type player. The other is a superstar. Don't get me wrong. But they're going to start declining once they hit 29, 30 years old because of the way they play the game. Lamarcus Aldridge is the complete opposite of that. He could play till he's like 35 or 36 years old. So, to me, he's 31, but he's a young 31. Just like Steve Nash. Steve Nash did not rely on too much athleticism. Same with Steph Curry. Steph Curry does not rely on his athleticism. So there are players who could play longer, and Lamarcus Aldridge looks like that type of player. The other big reason why I don't feel like it would make sense for the Spurs to trade him, once again, this was not a failed experiment. Okay? I'm going to go back to Dwight Howard when he signed with the Lakers. If the Lakers made it far into the playoffs and Dwight had a monster season, but they didn't win the championship, they would have probably kept him because although they didn't win a title, that wasn't a complete fail. The fact that they completely failed, they barely made the 8th seed, they got swept in the first round, Dwight had a ton of heat and a ton of drama on him all year, he decided to leave. That is a failed experiment. That was a failed experiment. With Lamarcus Aldridge, the only thing that happened was They didn't win a title. That's it. It wasn't a fail. He didn't complain. There wasn't anything going on. So there's that factor. And the last factor I'm going to point out, the Spurs got Lamarcus Aldridge at the perfect time. They got him right before the salary cap went up. So Lamarcus Aldridge signed a max contract worth $21 million per year. You want to know what Mike Conley got? Same exact max contract. He's getting $30 million per year. Okay? They both got max contracts, but in different years. And then the next year's max contract is going to be $33 to $35 million because the salary cap just keeps going up. So the Spurs got Lamarcus Aldridge at $21 million a year. 4 years, $84 mil. 21 mil. That was his max. Now the max was $30 million this past summer, and next year is up to $35 million. So could you imagine? I don't know, let's say Blake Griffin gets a $35 million contract, and then you have Lamarcus Aldridge, who's in the same class as Blake Griffin, making $21 million a year. That's not something you just throw away or trade away. That is a very, very valuable piece, because as much as you look at talent in the NBA, as much as you look at cohesion and chemistry, you also look at how much money does this player make, because that way you can help the players around you. You know, Lamarcus Aldridge making $21 million. Heck, now we have money to bring in other players to help him out. So there you have it. I just gave you my opinion whether I think Lamarcus Aldridge will be traded or not. I gave you guys why it would make sense for the Spurs to trade him, but I also gave you guys why it does not make any sense for the Spurs to trade him. This is just a rumor. There is no wheels to it. Maybe if it gets more wheels and more heat, then we can start looking at, oh, which teams does Lamarcus Aldridge fit on? Which teams could potentially trade for him? But for now, I'm going to let that be until this rumor picks up more heat, because I don't see it happening. But then again, what do I know? I'm just a 21-year-old boy living in a house. I don't work for the NBA. I don't know the inside sources. So this is an opinionated piece, and I want to know what you guys think. Why does it make sense for him to be traded? Does it make sense for him to stay? And what are your predictions? Lamarcus Aldridge, name popping up in the trade rumors for the first time as a member of the San Antonio Spurs. Guys, imagine if he gets traded back to Portland with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. That would be crazy. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And I hope you guys enjoyed.